Hello, everyone. So glad to be here this morning. It's actually noon my time. If you're on the East Coast, or on the West Coast, it's on the morning in the morning. Anyways, can't speak today, but hello, good morning. Christmas Eve. This is like the best time of year. I'm obsessed with this time of year. And then after all the holidays, like I feel like January 2nd is just the saddest day of the year. It's just cold. We still get to ski up here in Colorado, but then it's just cold and the spirit of Christmas has passed. But I wasn't actually planning on going live today because I normally see clients on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, sometimes overflow on Mondays. But because of Christmas Eve and Christmas, I'm not seeing clients on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I'm seeing them today. So I wasn't planning on going live, but my schedule moved around and this little window opened up and here I am. So I am excited to be here. And I'm going to talk about a topic that's absolutely not related to the holidays really at all. But I still thought that it was really meaningful. And I'm going to post in my group and I'll share some like recipe ideas and like do all the holiday stuff. But I don't know, I could have talked about like how to not eat sugar, but people are still going to eat sugar. I've talked about holiday mindsets and all that kind of stuff before. Um, yeah, we're going to talk about hormones today. So before I jump into that though, I do want to share some news. So, yeah, I'll just come out and say it. I'm pregnant. Yay. I'm pregnant with baby number 2, which is very exciting. Even more exciting is it's due on my birthday, July 4th, which is just so wonderful. So partially, we had our big doctor's appointment visit, heard the heartbeat, all the good stuff. So I felt more confident sharing with everyone. But I'm also like constantly winded. And so I didn't want you to be like, why is she like out of breath while she's just, sitting here? Yeah. So I'm always winded, which is really fun. And then I had that like kind of ominous message couple weeks ago when I was, I didn't go live and I was supposed to because I was sick and, weird about, what was that? And anyways, I thought it might be morning sickness, but it legitimately was a stomach bug. Like I got it, my daughter got it, my husband got it. I haven't had morning sickness. Yeah. So anyway, so that's what that was, but I wasn't sure at the time what it was. But anyways, yay, exciting. We'll find out gender soon. So stay tuned. I'm sure that will come out at some point, but we're all very excited over here. So let me jump into it. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. If you guys are anything like me, I bet you're in the holiday mindset also and are just like kind of already checking out. But I wanted to go live. So what I'm going to talk about today is hormone balance, specifically estrogen and progesterone. So ladies, if you have PMS problems, if you have PCOS, if you have problems getting or staying pregnant, you want to listen to this. Men, progesterone might have, be a little bit less relatable to you, but estrogen should be very relatable to you. Men, you can have high estrogen. And the reason you get high estrogen is because your testosterone is actually being converted into estrogen. Not good. So usually high estrogen accompanies lower testosterone. So men, if you're noticing like you just can't build muscle the way that you used to, you don't have the same physical endurance like you used to have. Are you more emotional than you used to be? Which isn't a bad thing. It's just it might be a different thing for you. Are you noticing more acne, more fat, weight gain, thinning hair, balding? Less motivation and drive, more brain fog. Like if you're noticing those symptoms, you want to listen to this too. This talk is not just for my ladies. The estrogen piece will apply to men as well. So before I jump into it, Kinsey Berkwin here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm an integrative nutritionist in my online practice, Progressive Health and Wellness, where I work with ambitious men and women who are struggling with their mental and physical health. We take a root-caused body-mind approach to optimize your overall health and wellness. So let's talk about estrogen progesterone. So to keep this conversation really short, you might have heard the term estrogen dominance before. That would be applicable to everything I'm going to be talking about today. But I'm not going to get into the whole nitty gritty of estrogen dominance and low progesterone and what causes high estrogen and what causes low progesterone. Like, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of that. This is meant to be a very direct and to the point, like, here are my 5 favorite supplements for this. So if you're listening to this, and ladies, like I said, you're having the PMS, the fertility problems, the PCOS, men, you're having the higher estrogen problems, lower testosterone, but especially higher estrogen. I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite supplements that can help. If you want more of the science behind this, please go to my blog, my Facebook group, tons of resources. So my Facebook group is Holistic Solutions for Mental Health and Wellness. You can request to join that group. It's a free private group. Search in that group estrogen dominance, low progesterone. So much information is going to come up. So go there for that. You can also go to my blog, progressivehealthandwellness.com, click on blog, and there's a ton of information there too on all of this. What causes low progesterone? What are the symptoms? Estrogen dominance, like all those things. So I'm going to keep it direct and to the point right now. So what I'm talking about right now is getting at the importance of balancing those 2 hormones. So estrogen and progesterone, and men, estrogen and testosterone need to be an ideal ratio of each other. And when they become imbalanced, either with high estrogen or low progesterone, and there can be nuances to that, right? You can have high estrogen and low progesterone, or you can have normal estrogen but low progesterone, or normal progesterone and high estrogen. So what's happening matters. And that's why I always recommend testing your hormones first. The symptoms often overlap, so it can be hard to tell what's really going on based on symptoms alone. And knowing which of those 3 scenarios is involved would obviously dictate what we do as far as supplements, diet, lifestyle, etc. goes. Men, if you notice high estrogen, normal testosterone, or maybe just low testosterone, or everything I'm going to say about progesterone for women would really apply to testosterone for men. So men, just like tune out the word progesterone and think testosterone in its place. But like I said, or you could have normal testosterone and high estrogen. So again, all of those would apply. So any of those scenarios, again, I recommend testing first. I really like salivary hormones for like your general, just seeing what's going on in the body for your general person. I do like the Dutch test, the dried urine test. If there's more pronounced problems, if there's known PCOS, if there's known endometriosis or a history of hormonally driven cancers, or something more significant or complicated, or they're having like really significant hormonal symptoms, then I like the Dutch test. But either one, because it looks at tissue levels of the hormones. And the Dutch test, we also glean biochemical pathways that the hormones would be going through. So few of the hormones, a few of the supplements I'm going to talk about, 2 of them, I'm going to talk about DIM and calcium D-Glucarate. Those are very focused on estrogen metabolism, healthy estrogen metabolism. Then I'm going to talk about iodine, which is great for both healthy estrogen metabolism, ovarian health in women, prostate health in men, but then also healthy progesterone production. And then I will talk about valerian root and chasteberry or vitex, same thing, different name. And those are more on the progesterone side. Okay, so let's start. So DIM, if we're dealing with either overtly high estrogen, like we've lab tested it, high estrogen, person has the symptoms, or the estrogen levels might be okay as a whole, as an aggregate, but the person is not detoxifying estrogen through the best pathway. So there's 3, once estrogen is produced and used in the body, there's 3 different pathways by which it goes down in phase 1 of the liver. So estrogen will eventually go through the liver. The liver metabolizes, which means breaks it down. And then that estrogen passes through the gallbladder and dumps into the bowels largely. Some of it will go through the urine. Sorry, a little congestion. which can also be a pregnancy thing. Weird. Okay, so some of it will go through the urine. A lot of it will go through the bowels. So after the estrogen is used, it goes through in phase one of the liver, first step of that liver metabolism process. It will go through 2, 4, or 16 hydroxy pathways. One of those pathways is good, safe, like the cleanest route of estrogen detoxification. That's the 2 form. Then there's the 4 and the 16, one of which is more toxic, meaning it's more carcinogenic form of estrogen. That's the 16. And one is more neutral, and that's the 4, meaning it's not like the best route and it's not the worst route. So it's more of a neutral. So sometimes what we'll see in someone's Dutch test, which is where we get this information, we'll see that their overall estrogen levels are normal range, but they're favoring one of the less preferred. So either that 4 or 16 side as opposed to the 2. So DIM or indole-3 carbinol. So DIM is converted into indole-3 carbinol. So I3C is the more activated form, if you will, of DIM. This is found in broccoli extract. So it's derived from cruciferous vegetables. So you can eat a lot of cruciferous vegetables and get, that will help your hormone levels. That will help your liver detoxification. Absolutely. Supplements are useful when we're trying to move the needle faster than what food will do alone. So that's where it can be beneficial to supplement with the indole-3 carbinol. The dosing that I would use, I'm not going to get into specifics of that, but it depends on what's happening. So if somebody has overtly high estrogen and we want to lower their estrogen, then we'll use a higher dose of indole-3 carbinol, versus if somebody has normal estrogen, but we're trying to improve the pathway that it's going down, then we'll use a more conservative dose. Okay, so that is the first one, is indole-3 carbinol. So again, that can be really useful if somebody has overtly high estrogen, or it's going down one of the less preferred pathways, but it will help lower estrogen, like point blank. Next, and I should say, some of the symptoms of high estrogen in women, heavy, clotty periods, breast swelling and tenderness leading up to the period, water retention. You feel puffy, you gain weight. So one of those like, oh, it's that time of the month, right? And you're gaining weight, not normal. So if that's happening, that can be a sign of higher estrogen. Acne, like I said, heavy menstrual cycles, more PMS, especially I see more of like the depressive, weepy kind of PMS. But if progesterone is also low, sometimes it can be a combination of that weepy, depressive, and also like irritable, anxious. Okay, so that was high estrogen, or I'm sorry, DIM, indole-3 carbinol. Next is calcium D-Glucarate. So D-Glucarate, I really like for a couple of reasons. Calcium D-Glucarate supports the glucuronidation pathway in the liver, which is one pathway that phase 2, so estrogen goes phase 1 of the liver and then phase 2. That's one pathway that estrogen goes down, is metabolized through. But other things too. So like xenoestrogen, certain chemicals, certain mycotoxins from mold, all are detoxified through this glucuronidation pathway. So by taking calcium D-Glucarate, you're supporting phase 2 of the liver detoxification process of estrogen. But then you get that added benefit of supporting the other things that your liver is detoxifying through that pathway, like I just listed. The second reason I like calcium D-Glucarate is that it helps with kind of phase 3, as it's considered, of estrogen detoxification, which is in the bowels. So what can happen is estrogen enters phase 1 of the liver detox process. Then it goes to phase 2. When it goes through the glucuronidation process, or pathway, it's bound to a protein called calcium D-Glucarate, which is what the supplement is. So it's bound to that protein. That makes it safe to eliminate from the body. So then it dumps into the gallbladder, into the bowels. It should be eliminated in the stool. But if you have an upregulation of certain gut bacteria, they produce an enzyme called beta glucuronidase that cleaves that bond. So you've got this glucarate estrogen bond, the beta glucuronidase cleaves it, that frees the estrogen again, and it gets reabsorbed back into your body. The body is very resourceful. If it can reabsorb things, which it does, like bile acids, cholesterol, etc., if it can reabsorb things, it will. Estrogen is one of them. So when that's happening to a high degree, it's the analogy I give my clients is it's like going to throw out your trash and you're like, oh, the dumpster's full. I'm just going to like throw it in the kitchen instead, right? I'm going to throw my trash in the living room instead. Like not very sustainable, right? So supplementing with calcium D-Glucarate, if that's happening in the bowels, which can be picked up on a routine GI map stool test, but if that's happening in the bowels, it will also support that phase 3 part and offset that. Ultimately, you want to fix the microbiome imbalance, but it's very helpful in the interim to support that liver pathway and then the bowel pathway too. And that's how it will help lower the body's load of estrogen. So those two can be used in combination. They can be used on their own. It kind of depends on what's going on, the severity of the symptoms, what we see in other labs. But can be really powerful when used together to help lower estrogen levels. So that's the estrogen focus, right? Indole 3-carbinol or DIM and calcium D-Glucarate. Number 3 is iodine. Iodine. So fascinating. I've been learning a lot more about iodine lately. So iodine, it's an essential mineral. And I'll be honest, in the nutrition world and the holistic functional medicine world and the conventional medicine world, like iodine is kind of a like be careful when you use it tone or attitude. It's like iron in a sense, like any mineral you don't want to supplement with you if you have an excess or if you have healthy levels. But definitely iron and definitely iodine because they can cause real problems if used in a situation where it's not needed. So iodine, again, it's like one of those kind of be careful with supplementing things. And iodine, most people think of the thyroid, and that's like it, right? You think, oh, thyroid health, and that's it. That's where the mind goes. But iodine, I've been learning a lot more about, and it is fascinating. So iodine is, yes, important for thyroid health. Absolutely. We need iodine in order to manufacture our thyroid hormones. So to give you an idea, like thyroid hormones are called T3 and T4 in short, and that represents the number of iodine molecules that there are, 3 or 4. So, I mean, it's very critical for thyroid support. But iodine is also the highest concentration of iodine in the female body is not the thyroid. It is the ovaries. That gives you an idea of how important iodine is for ovarian health. Men, it is also very important for prostate and for testicular health. Iodine is needed. It helps prevent the formation of fluid-filled sacs. So if you think of like PCOS, cystic breasts, fibrocystic breasts, it's very important for the formation of sacs. It is important for the pituitary to signal to the ovaries to produce progesterone, which is where most progesterone, in fact, all of it is produced in the female body after ovulation. It is needed for healthy ovulation. So we can also make the connection, not only because it's needed for healthy egg formation and healthy healthy ovaries, but also for the thyroid. The thyroid is also very important for, again, female hormone balance as a whole, including ovulation, which includes the production of progesterone. If you don't have healthy ovulation, ladies, you will not have healthy progesterone levels. That's where progesterone comes from. When we release an egg, the place where the egg was released from is now called a corpus luteum. And that corpus luteum is what starts producing progesterone. Progesterone's job is to get the uterine lining ready for implantation should that egg be fertilized. So if you're not ovulating, which if you're not having regular menstrual cycles, there's one clue. If you have PCOS, there's another possible clue. But if you're not ovulating, you will not have normal or optimal levels of progesterone. Which also, anybody that can't get pregnant, this is really, really important. Even if you're having regular menstrual cycles and you know you're ovulating, if your progesterone is low, that uterine lining is not going to thicken the way that it needs to in order to maintain a healthy pregnancy, to keep a safe place for that fertilized egg, safe and nourished place for that fertilized egg. So iodine is critical for all of these things. Now, here's the other important thing with iodine. The biggest food sources of iodine are seafood. I don't know about any of you, but I might eat seafood like maybe once a week on a good week. Right? Like, and I live in Colorado. Some of you are coastal. Maybe you're eating more seafood regularly, but like we're not eating that much. You get a little bit from dairy, but not like a meaningful amount. If you are breastfeeding, if you're pregnant, your need for iodine increases. So the point that I'm making, that's why they started iodizing our salt in the first place, because so many people were getting goiters because our diet severely lacks iodine. So deficiency is very ready, very prevalent. And it gets even better. So iodine is part of the halogen family of chemicals, like in chemistry. And the others that are included in the halogen family include bromine, fluorine, and chlorine. And those three chemicals will compete for absorption of iodine into our tissue. So the thyroid, the ovaries, they will compete for absorption of iodine into our tissue. Chlorine, fluorine, it's in our water supply. We are readily exposed to those other halogens. Even if you drink filtered water, which is great, and I do, and I recommend it, most of us are not bathing in filtered water. So we're still going to get it on our skin and absorb it that way. And chlorine can be gaseous when it's hot, so we can inhale it. So, we've got all these double whammies when it comes to iodine. So I have started going through like all of my clients. Like, do you have hypothyroid symptoms? Do you have hypothyroidism? Do you have suboptimal thyroid lab values? Are you always cold? Is your hair thinning? Are your nails thinning? Can you not lose weight? Do you feel more depressed? Are you constipated? Do you feel more anxious? Can you either not sleep great or you sleep excessive amount, 10 hours, and you still feel tired? All of these are hypothyroid symptoms. Do you have hyperthyroidism or Graves' disease? Like that is a big one where my mind was absolutely blown, frankly, because everything you read about hyper and Graves is like, don't touch the iodine. And like the research does not say that. There's a study from 2023 saying like this helped the majority of study participants. I mean, it's just wild. So with that said, there are some precautions that need to be taken with iodine. It is like iron in the sense that you don't want to supplement with it if you don't need it. If you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, I don't recommend it. There are nuances to that. It can be done safely, but generally speaking, it will upregulate, it will worsen the Hashimoto's. So I don't recommend it. You can do an iodine loading test where you test your urine over 24 hours and get a much clearer view of what your iodine levels are. That's always a good idea to do. Or what I will often recommend is seaweed. So eating seaweed, eating more seafood, and then I'll sometimes have my clients supplement with seaweed, supplement with sea moss. So like a whole food iodine blend that also has other minerals in it, as opposed to going directly to like potassium iodide. So I think that's a great starting point. But again, look at your thyroid labs, consider your symptoms, talk to your doctor. This is not me making recommendations. I'm a nutritionist, but I'm not your nutritionist. So, please, this is not medical advice, in other words, but I'm saying it's something worth considering. It's something worth considering and can be very helpful. Lastly, iodine is also needed for the healthy metabolism of estrogen. And high estrogen will interfere with the uptake of iodine into the thyroid. So it's kind of a vicious cycle there. Okay, so that's number 3. Now we're getting more onto the progesterone side of things. So my favorite when focusing on progesterone, the biggest thing I want to emphasize is you cannot have healthy progesterone levels if your body does not feel safe. Because progesterone is needed for fertility, if your body does not feel safe, it doesn't think now is a great time to get pregnant, and it will down-regulate progesterone production as a result. So that's why one of my recommendations for progesterone support is valerian root, which is a great adaptogen. It's a calming adaptogen. So it helps your body be more resilient or adaptable to stress. Great for anxiety. It's great for insomnia. It's great for the arousal form of stress. Can be really helpful in those cases. And then the last recommendation is Vitex or chasteberry, which actually helps with the pituitary, which regulates hormones. It helps with the pituitary signaling to the ovaries to produce progesterone. So you're still producing your own progesterone. It's just helping your brain and ovaries communicate better, in other words. But again, the biggest causes of low progesterone in women are stress, inflammation, and I'll go ahead and say nutrient deficiencies too. So ultimately, what I see regularly is like those things really need to be addressed. Taking a supplement to help progesterone is, I don't know if I've ever seen it work by itself. It's a great tool in the toolbox, but that's where we're looking at things like gut health, your diet, your levels of exercise. Are you over or under training? Did I say gut health? What your levels of estrogen look like, what your stress levels are, how much sleep you're getting. There's a lot more, like your chemical exposure. There's a lot more to the matrix when talking about progesterone. And then I'll almost always add in like some form of regular breath work and mindfulness work. Because again, we're trying to signal safety to the body. With that said, the valerian root and the chasteberry can still be very helpful tools in that toolbox, but just putting it into perspective. Okay, everyone, I said it was going to be short. We're at 27 minutes. This happens every week. But what did you think of this? Was this helpful information? Have you used some of these before? If so, what changes did you notice? What effects did you notice? Do you have any questions come up? Please tag me in it. I hope it was helpful. And I will put out a Facebook post that kind of summarizes all of this in my Facebook group, Holistic Solutions for Mental Health and Wellness. I will put out a blog as well, so stay tuned for that. And then have a great rest of your week. Enjoy. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I will not be going live next Monday. I'm taking a personal day. So I will not be going live next Monday, but I will be back at it. I think it's January 6th is the next week, the next Monday. And I hope everyone enjoys their week this week. Happy holidays, everyone. Bye. Oh, I forgot. One more thing. If you're watching this, I got to give you more resources. If you're watching this, ladies, men, and you're like, okay, this is me. I'm trying to get pregnant. I can't. I have horrendous periods. I can't deal with it. Men, you're not performing sexually the way that you used to. Your endurance isn't the same. You can't build muscle, like all of those things. And you're finally ready to deal with it in 2025. I invite you to schedule a free 15-minute phone call. I'll link it in the post here. You can also go directly to my website, progressivehealthandwellness.com. Reach out to me, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it might be. But it's a free 15-minute call, and it gives us a chance to get to know each other better, but more importantly, talk more about some of the symptoms that you're having and what your goals are. I'll share about our practice and process. And if it feels like a good fit, then we'll talk about how to get started. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. Got nothing to lose. Okay, how to boo that little plug. All right. Have a great rest of your year. Bye, everyone.